Hilchos Chametz U'Matzah. Now Pesach ton shvicha keneged haYisod. The blood of the Korban Pesach is not done on top of the Mizbeach, but it's rather spilled with one spilling against the foundation of the Mizbeach on the southwest side. Again. Now, the Kesef Mishnah cites Psochim, the difference between pouring and spraying. Rashi brings down that pouring is slowly with the vessel, whereas Rika is when you splash it. Because the Mishnah questions the Mishnah, Samach Dalam and Aleph 64a, it seems that they didn't pour the blood, but they would throw it with one splash against the Yisod. Kurkis says also from the Mishnah Zvachim that there are three that you do this with: the B'chor, the Mice, and the Pesach, like you say in the morning in Ezev Mekomen. And the blood needs to be poured once against the base. It says the Mishnah counts the Pesach and the B'chor together. It seems that the way you give the blood is the same. It's like B'chor is with a zrika, meaning you don't spill it slowly, but rather with a splash. So to Pesach is zrika, not by pouring. And the Gemara says, why the Rambam doesn't pass like him? And he explains that he holds like Rabbi Akiva. In the Halacha, Rabbi Akiva, but it's only one against him, and therefore Rambam passes like him. The Meiser Keach points out that even though according to the Rambam you pour the blood, you don't spray it. At times you have to spray it. They use spraying in the Hilchos Pesach. After they spill the blood, then you take off the skin, and you open the stomach, you take out the emurim, the innards, and you bring maktion oison, you bring them on the Mizbeach and chalvon, and they're fat, each one separately. It's found in Psochim, says in the posting, you shouldn't take a lot of them together, but each one individually. Now, what's the order? You have Zrikas Adam, taking off the skin, bringing the fat, the innards. That's the Seder and all the Karbonis, as we find Hilchos Ma'aseh Karbonis. Now, I'm ask a question. Why does the Rambam explain that you have to bring all the emurim of the korban at once, not with others? According to Marie Cook, the Rambam says it's two separate things. One meaning you shouldn't mix it with other carbonates. The second one is total kol zevach, that he should do the emurim, each one together, and not some of it now and a little bit later. Thus, the question is answered. According to the Mishnah Melech, the text of the Rambam is that you have to do it together. We don't find such a girsa, such a text. The Girsa writes that the Rambam alludes to this in Hilchos Chametz that they were mixed, the emurim of the karbonos. He does it all together. Meaning the you do them together. Only with the Eved you do it yechad. But still, we have a question: why does the Rambam say this did only by Korban Pesach when it has to do with all the karbonos? They have to do each one separately. And going on Menachem Zemba is Mechadish that to be makti the chalovim of every zevach by Lifnei Atzmoi is not because it's forbidden to bring them up together, but rather you have to do it for each bailim, and everybody is counted on a Pesach only on one keves. But if one person brought many carbonates and they're all his, it could be that you could do them together, even according to the Rambam. Thus, it comes out that by Korban Pesach, you can't bring more than one Korban Pesach because you can't be counted on one more than one. Therefore, each one has to be separate. That's why the Rambam says each one has to be separate. But if somebody brought 10 shlomim for Yontiv, for his large family, or many people, I would think he could bring them up all together because it's all his and he's the owner. And therefore, by Yom Pesach, it's specific that you can never have them mixed ever. The owner of the Zevach, then how does he carry the Pesach home? Inside the skin, each one alone. And maybe the base in Yerushalayim. He brings it to his house in Yerushalayim. And he roasts it and eats it by night. Now here the Rambam changes the Lashon of Brisa. In the Brisa it says, Tono, everybody plays the pischoy in the skin, and he puts it on his back. So Hilchos Chametz asks a question: how can you put a korban on your back? And when it's on your back, it's not, you don't see it. And if you don't notice them, and he answers that the psul of not thinking about them is lest it become tomei, and as long as the oil was not worked, it's not considered a vessel. It's not mekabel tuma. Therefore, you can put it even on his back without worrying about it becoming tomei. But the Rambam doesn't mention he places it on his back. He left out also that he puts the korban pesach inside the skin. He just says he takes them both home. The Sefer HaMoriah explains what it says in the Brisa is talking about the Pesach on the Oyer on Shabbos. On Shabbos, when they had to carry it home, they had to wait on Har HaBayis. Rambam is talking about here during the weekdays. Therefore, he doesn't mention that he has to have the skin around it on Pesach. We're learning the Hilchos Chametz Pesach Perek Aleph Halacha Zayin. Hamaniach Emurim. Somebody left the fat lehikta, and he didn't bring them on the mizbeach at shelonu until nightfall, or after nightfall. And if sulubelino, after the night has passed, you can't bring it on the mizbeach anymore. The kohen did so because the kohen have to bring it up. Transgress the loisesa. Shenam lo yolom chedev chagi ad boiker. One is not permitted to leave the fat innards stay till the morning. But even though he transgressed, he doesn't get malchus because the lack of doing something is not an action. You don't get malchus on anything that we don't have an action. Now, if somebody left the imurim and he did not bring them until they were left overnight, nifsulu belino. They're possibleina. He transgresses the loisesa. Shenema lo yolin chelev chagi ad boiker. Because it says you shall not leave the chelev chagi go until morning. But the korban itself doesn't become possible because the zrigas adam was kosher. Now the source for this din to say that the imurim are possible is in Mechilta. In Mechilta Rabbi Shmuel, Parasha 20. The Mishnah Lamelech asks many questions. They all have one point. Where does Rambam know that it's talking on Korban Pesach? It says Chagi would seem to be any Korban Chagiga. And certainly Pesach is called a different Pesach. Why does Rambam bring the Pesach has to do with a Chagiga, special Korban Chag? Mishnah Melech writes another point. The posuk that the Rambam brings on the Korban Chagiga and Korban Pesach is a different posuk, and therefore he tries to explain that he understood that this is the opinion of Rav Safram Sochim. And why doesn't he bring the posuk, the actual one which discusses the Zevach Chag Pesach? Because that pasuk is talking about on leaving the meat till the morning and not the emurim. But that answer too can be pushed away, since the Sefer HaMitzvahs, the Rambam writes It's talking on the Isser of the Emurim, not the meat. Therefore, the Mishnah Melech concludes that we need to understand why the Rambam chose these words exactly. Even though according to the Rambam there are two psukim to leave, and both are meant you should not allowed to leave over the Emurim of Pesach. There are one mitzvah. Why? Because the Rambam wrote in his 9th root of how we count the mitzvahs, that you don't do two mitzvahs that are repeated. You don't count them as two mitzvahs if they're the same. And even though if he was over, if he transgressed, he doesn't get malchus because he has no action. Mishnah Melech points out there are other places where the Rambam writes you don't get malchus because the lav is attached to an asay. You can rectify it. And he explains that because Pesach, we're talking about when you eat meat through Ayidei Odom. He explains that the Korban Pesach is talking about eating the meat through man. And somebody who doesn't eat it, you can do it by burning it. But other kochim, we're talking about the part of the korban which is not man's eating, but the achilas mizbeach, the eating of the mizbeach. And the main reason the kohen doesn't get malchus is because he didn't do anything. On the other side of the coin, the ptur is not because you don't do an action. But it's to tell you that even if you did do an action, you don't get malchus on it, because whenever you have something which has a rectification, such as burning the leftovers, it's a lav which is attached to an asay, then there is no malchus on such a lav, even if you do it with an action.